Welcome back, everyone. This is another one of our heart-powered, inspiring interviews. And as you know, every single time we invite an outstanding speaker, expert, entrepreneur, human being that is here to inspire you and empower you with how they run their business and how they expand with their speaking to make a bigger impact in the world. So today we have a really special guest and a wonderful friend of mine right down south from South Africa. She really is a human potential and parenting expert. She really has a knack on putting difficult, complex, and sensitive topics onto the table and making them accessible. She specializes in empowering individuals and families and teams to reframe disruption of any kind and really to gain new perspectives so they can reinvent themselves to continue to win at work, at home, and in their life. And what you might or might not know about her, she is actually an award-winning Hall of Fame speaker. And she wrote an amazing book, which is called Future Proof Herself, which is her book on dancing with disruption that was published in July 2021. So she really took the advantage of the Corona times to publish another book and make it a great success. Well, this is not her first, second, or third. It is already her fourth book. And she has fielded over 3,000 media interviews and has weekly slots on Prime TV and radio shows in South Africa. So welcome with me today, Nikki Bush. Nikki, it's amazing to have you with us.
Thank you, Monique. It's wonderful to be with you.
Great. So let's jump right in. I always love to dive in and find out, especially in the current times, what are you doing right now? What are 3 of your best practices and approaches to help you to nourish and make your own business grow further? What do you do? What are your top secret 3?
Thanks, Monique. I think it's very important, whether we're going through good times or bad, to keep perspective and to take time to step back and get a different view. And that's really what I've done over the past couple of weeks. In fact, I told you before we began, how I've been throwing out big piles of paper from my past, and those include lots of ideas, lots of thoughts, lots of insights that I've captured over the years. And it's been really interesting to look through all those pieces of paper and scribblings to see that there's some common threads of always be connecting, always be selling, and always be reinventing. And I think maybe the one that we should start unpacking to begin with is the reinvention one, because we are all in a space where we have never been before in terms of this global pandemic. It's pushed us into places that we never envisaged we might have to go to, like for me, presenting virtually as a speaker. And I think, when you go through disruptive times in your life, and the coronavirus pandemic is one of them, for me, and I'd suggest to all of our listeners and viewers that they go and look at their own personal timeline from the time they can, as far back as they can remember. And for me, that probably is from about the age of sort of 7 or so. And go and have a look at all your high points and your low points and see how you have been resourceful and resilient over time, how you have figured out a solution and bounced back and reinvented. And for me, it's not just about the pandemic. In 2017, I lost my husband, and it was horrendous. I live in Johannesburg, South Africa. We had a home invasion, and my husband was murdered. So that absolutely projected me into a place I'd never been before. As a single woman, as a widow at 50, as the sole breadwinner and mother of 2 young men, I had to reinvent myself, and I had to peg my value and hold my value. It was a very interesting learning at that time, was to be less negotiable than I had been when there had been 2 incomes in our household. And as a woman, And in my personal and professional development journey, it was a massive step forward in my evolution. So always be reinventing actually also speaks to the fact that we need to be constantly learning about ourselves. And that means being very aware and awake to what's going on in the market. What does the market need? What will the market pay for? And what skills, what knowledge, what specialty do I have? What's my USP? What can I offer the market? And in a nutshell, I was so unbelievably well positioned when the global pandemic hit, because I had just come through the first 2 years of walking through trauma, loss, and grief. And I realized with this pandemic that every person on this planet was going to experience a version of what I had been walking through, whether people were getting ill or had lost somebody through the pandemic, or whether it's a sense of loss of control or loss of an ability to see the future. Every one of these situations will put you in a cycle of grief, loss, and trauma. And I was actually an expert at that point and could add that to my 25 years of human potential and parenting expertise. I could help people through disruption from a very deeply personal, heartfelt perspective. And so my work, as you mentioned, I touch on some very difficult, complex topics like grief and loss. Doesn't just come from an academic textbook. It comes from personal experience. So there's lots of story, and the words that clients use are that my work is relatable and accessible. But I can see through the evolution over 20 whatever years, how I've constantly responded to the market demands, but through that heartfelt personal experience. That's part of my trademark, as is play. And that comes through the parenting, learning through play stream. So I'm one of those people who has been tightly niched at one point in parenting and learning through play and education. And I have expanded my niche in the past 4 or 5 years to encompass human potential, which is really leadership of self-parenting. So you can see how I've danced with disruption and how I have reinvented myself along the way.
I love it. Oh my God, Nikki. I mean, you and our interview could take hours, and we would, could dive into so many different aspects of what you've gone through, after the loss of your husband. And, it must have been really a tough time with existential questions and everything else. And I would like to point out one thing that I know is hard, and you mentioned it yourself, especially often for women, but equally for men. What you said is you became less negotiable. And I love that, especially in business, right? We always have, and you say also you run your business with big heart, that's what people appreciate about you. And a lot of people that have a big heart have a tendency of giving away a lot and are very negotiable. So how did you become less negotiable? What did you think differently? How did you think differently? What did you do differently to make that happen?
So interestingly, Monique, in the first, I would say 15 years of my speaking career, I was largely niched, as I said, in education and parenting, which meant I grew up through speaking to schools, at schools, for staff, for parents. And so my price point was much lower than a corporate speaker. Educational institutions traditionally cannot pay a corporate fee. So it was a mindset. Yeah. I got stuck in the mindset of, what do I charge a school? What do I charge individual parents when they come to a public workshop? And I did many years of public workshopping, which is once again a different price point to what you would charge a corporate. And so it was really about 4 or 5 years ago, as the market changed and more parents were going to work and less parents were available for a nighttime talk at a school, that I realized I really needed to target corporates. But of course, parenting and education is a soft skill, and they weren't going to pay me the top speaker fees for that. And so I had to evolve and broaden what I was speaking about. And so it's completely connected to parenting, self-parenting, self-leadership, and all of those things. It's actually one and the same thing, but it's a different, it's the same overlay into a different environment. Yes. So I've just sharpened my saw, and it really was when I became a single mom, sole breadwinner, that I had to draw a line in the sand. And I had to say, actually, this is what I'm worth. This is what I need to survive, and I'm worth it. It was very much looking back at my journey to see how far I'd come and what was I offering the market that nobody else could offer. And it really was a single moment in time when I sat in front of a very big insurance company, directors of the company, who wanted to book me for a 10-stop roadshow. And they wanted me to talk about my what if happens disruption story. And the penny dropped that this was a unique story nobody else could tell. And they asked what it would cost for a 10-stop roadshow around the country. And would I like to come back to them with a price? And I said, actually, no, I can tell you right now. I know exactly what, my fee is for a talk out of town. And I gave them the price, and I said, times it by 10. And the director of the company said, well, do we get a bulk discount for 10 talks? Now, this insurance company, I happen to have my insurance and my medical aid with them. And I said, I've been paying you for 20 plus years on a monthly basis, and I never ask you for a discount on my premiums. I actually couldn't believe what came out of my mouth, to be honest. It wasn't cheeky, it was firm, and it was clear.
Yeah, and it was very business savvy, right? I mean, yeah.
Exactly. And the other thing I realized over that time was that women are far more negotiable than men. And as I sat there, it crossed my mind that if I'd been a man, he would never have asked me for a discount. And he was asking me for a discount because he thought I was negotiable.
And it's okay, because you responded in your self-appreciative way.
And I got the 10-stop speaking roadshow. Of
course.
Not only that, he agreed in that moment. Okay. And the next thing was they wanted to contract me, and they wanted me exclusively for them. And I was able to escalate what I was charging them into a 7-figure deal.
Woohoo!
And that was because I held my line and I held my value.
Yeah.
And I think boundaries, it's something that you evolve into. What kind of boundaries can you put into a situation? And I have to say that my business has grown since I decided what my boundaries were and whether I was or was not going to be negotiable. So, yeah.
Amazing. I love that. And Nikki, I still want to jump into another topic that you touched on, which is so critical and important in business. And that is always keep your pulse on selling. Always keep your finger on your pulse on selling. Always be selling. Can you give a couple of hints and tips on how do you make sure you are consistently keeping your focus on selling?
Well, I think that the biggest piece of wisdom I can share here is that you must always be speaking to the highest potential in every audience. It doesn't matter what kind of audience I have, whether it is a group of parents in a township in South Africa, whether it is a boardroom exco, in one of the financial institutions. Wherever I am, I know that I've got to put my best foot forward, because you never know who's going to be in your audience. So be highly respectful of everyone with whom you come into contact, because you never know either who they are or who they are going to become in the future. And if you create an indelible memory with them, they will come back to you when they are in a position of influence and power to ask you to come and influence their group. And I've seen that time and time again. So I'm always selling, even if I'm not being paid to speak, because speakers occasionally do get paid and do speak for free. And you usually do that very intentionally. It has to be the right kind of audience. Always put your best foot forward, because you are selling every time you show up to a meeting, whether you're on a stage or whether you're negotiating.
And Nikki, I love it so much. I really would like to make it even more concrete. In what ways are you doing that? In what ways are you putting your best foot forward? Are you, because also, like, I give advice to the people I work with, and I say, always share your success stories. Always mention what you're doing and how you're doing it, right? So what do you mean from your perspective, and put your best foot forward?
Yeah, so putting your best foot forward is always giving your best work, always having great stories, as you say, to tell that that people can connect with. If you stand up and you sound like you've been to a business school and you're quoting from an academic textbook, that doesn't cut it anymore. So you've got to be able to take your information or your product and turn it into something that this client wants. So you've actually got to do a little bit of research on the client. And if you can't do it ahead of time, spend some of the time at the beginning of each meeting asking a lot of questions. So being interested in your client and in other people actually endears you to them, because they actually need to be the hero in this situation. You need to make them the focus of the story, and you come up with something that will help them enhance their position. And I think we've just always got to remember that everybody is building a brand of one. Everybody's building a brand of one, and we need to help them to build a better brand of one. And if we can offer any advice that does that, then it's, that's invaluable. And I like to leave people with practical ideas, practical frameworks, things to go and to do now. You don't have to go and study for 10 hours before you implement it. I like to make it very doable right now. And I think to remind people about their successes, especially women. We don't connect with our success. So I said always be connecting as well is one of my 3 things. And always be connecting can be many things. It can be connecting and networking with other people, which is incredibly important, that we're always expanding our circle and bringing new people into that circle. And that could be as simple as creating a mastermind with other people, and they don't have to be like-minded. There needs to be a common thread, but actually diversity brings strength and interest and different opinions and different perspectives, which is good. So during the pandemic, it's been a fantastic time because everybody's been online to start different groups and to belong to different groups that you meet weekly or monthly or whatever it is, and everybody feeds back what they're doing, and you find you can connect each other into different clients, etc. So that's important. On a personal basis, I think it's incredibly important to have somebody neutral to speak to, who doesn't have a vested interest in the outcome, like a therapist or a coach. That's incredibly helpful. I verbalize to materialize. I know that about myself. If I can talk through what's going on in my head, it'll crystallize the solution. I think a lot of people are lonely. And I have found during the pandemic that when I phone a client or a client phones me, the first 20 minutes are taken up with personal banter. Even if I've never met them before, we get very deep very quickly because we can relate to each other and where we find ourselves. But always be connecting always means connecting with self. Yeah. Don't leave yourself out of the equation. And if you achieve any kind of success or a feeling of satisfaction, and that's quite a differentiation. Success is an outcome, satisfaction is a feeling. And I don't think we, particularly as women, actually celebrate that sense of satisfaction. We tend to experience some success and move straight on to the next thing on the list. And we don't let it percolate through us. We don't appreciate what we've just achieved. So I keep a bell on my desk, and this is my bell. And if I get booked for a new gig, or if whatever it is, it might be that I've written a new talk and I love the idea. I ring my bell and I can feel that viscerally through my entire being. It goes in my ears, my eyes, my skin. It reverberates. And just that simple act of celebration makes me stop and appreciate myself. Remember, nobody's going to appreciate you if you don't appreciate yourself. If you don't have a bell, get yourself a simple wine glass and a fork or a knife, and you can ting the glass. So something very multi-sensory. And so when I said play earlier on in the interview, I said play is a trademark in my work. This is an element of play. Mm-hmm. And children learn in a multi-sensory way. Human beings learn in a multi-sensory way. But because we're so on screen all of the time, we forget this. Mm-hmm. And this is a wonderful way to kind of refocus and center yourself and remind yourself that you're doing good stuff in the world.
I love it. And you're doing so much good stuff, Nikki, and I could listen to you forever. So many golden nuggets and hints and tips. And, as you know, in our interviews, we always love to inspire everyone that is with us, our community and beyond. And also, as you know, when we take action, we start shifting things, we get results, things start moving, we create our world, right? You're saying it behind you. Life isn't about what is it? Finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself, right? I love that one, right?
That's
so
right.
We create ourselves, right, through taking action. I love it. And so we always invite our guests to share one little thing people can do right away today.
Okay.
To step up as a little bit as how to take action on all the golden nuggets you shared with us. What is that one invite and challenge for this week for everyone?
Monique, I think sometimes we get stuck in a rut when we're making decisions or prioritizing things. And let's face it, we're all very busy. So I'd love our listeners and our viewers to take a piece of paper and to make some columns. And I want you in the first column to write down. So this would be a prioritization exercise. And here I want you we're going to decide what to take off our list and what to keep on our list of things we are doing and involved in. So in the left-hand column, it's the list of all the items, the things you're busy with. And it could be, for myself, media interviews. It could be writing a new book. It could be preparing a new talk. It could be different aspects of my business. Maybe there's admin that I do that I could pass on to and delegate to somebody else. So the first column is all the stuff you're doing. The second column is how much time does each of those items take in hours. And the third column is how much income do you make from all of those activities? And then in the next column, how much does each of those activities cost you? Because some of these things cost you money. And then I want two more columns. And there is the interest column and the passion column. And we can be really interested in something, but not passionate about it. We can be really passionate about something and not so interested in it. And sometimes we do things that don't make us money for a reason. So the whole of last year, I got really committed to developing my podcast channel and my YouTube channel. It cost me because I was paying somebody to edit what I recorded. How much time did it take? There's a time aspect to it for me. Was there an income aspect? That's what I've been trying to quantify over the past couple of weeks in my perspective exercises. How passionate was I? Well, I was intensely interested with the podcasting and I was very passionate, but I was even more interested and more passionate about the video side of things, the YouTube side of things. So there are two things where I'm playing at the moment. And social media is a big thing at the moment. How much time do you spend posting on social media? What does it cost you? What does it bring in as income? etc. And suddenly you find you're doing things, you spot things where you have little passion, little interest, it's not bringing you income, and you can go cross it off the list. Doesn't count. Not valuable for me right now. And so you might take away stuff that will bring you hours that you can invest elsewhere. And one of the things that came up for me during the pandemic was I landed up, as we all did, watching a lot of Netflix. And I worked out that I was watching 3 to 4 hours a night.
Whoa.
Because we weren't going out, we weren't socializing, etc. And I asked myself, what if I took just 1 hour a day of Netflix away? That would give me 30 extra hours a month. And what could I do with 30 hours? And that is what I put into my videoing and my podcasting. So let's see how that goes for all of you. How will that help you to make better decisions for the year to come?
I love it, Nikki. And all of you that are here with us, first of all, thank you for being here with us today and for being loyal and watching all our amazing, uplifting interviews. Take the action. I know you love playing with us. Take the action and share with us in our HeartPowered Global Nation how it's going and, how, what actions you're, taking away and which ones you put more focus on. Great, Nikki. It's been amazing to have you. Thank you so much. I know a lot of people say, I really want to get in touch with that Nikki. I really want to connect with her. And you said, always be connecting. So where can people find you? How can they best connect with you?
I think the easiest way is just to go to nikkibush.com, and all my contact details and social media details are there. And I just wish for you, may your curiosity always be stronger than your fear.
I love that. What a powerful running of may your curiosity always be stronger than your fear. And Nikki, I think you and I live that concept, right? So, and we hope all of you do. So again, thank you for an amazing interview, Nikki. And thank you all for being here with us. And we'll be back with another HeartPowered inspiring interview soon. In the meantime, also, let curiosity drive you. And also, as we always say, speak up, scale up, impact the world in your own amazing way. Okay. All the best until soon. Cheers.